Yo, 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 what's going on? Welcome back out to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. Before we get into this one, make sure you hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, subscribe down below, and leave a comment. Our comments are going to be a personal venting session for Cleveland Cavaliers fans, Cleveland fans in general. What is on your mind, and why are you upset that this team cannot stay healthy for the life of it? I think that is going to be the top of the show. It's really sad. And usually we record these about 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday. The last couple of weeks, we've been waiting till later in the day. And unfortunately for the Cavs, but fortunately for our news cycle, it was actually good to wait today because if you have not heard, we just received news that Evan Mobley will be out 2 to 4 weeks with an elbow sprain. Another weird injury where Colin Sexton, he has his injury in his knee. I believe he came back in that game and played some more, and then he left. Mobley stayed on the court, and then they took him out in the third quarter, and we didn't see from him again, and that was not a good sign. So it's unfortunate that the injuries are taking a huge toll. We had some good stuff, some great stuff to talk about, which we will still get into game by game in this episode, but I'll throw it over to Justin. Initial thoughts and just how deflating was the Mobley news?
It's crazy just how deflating this entire season has been with injuries already. With 15 games in, you're missing four starters now. Four starters. That's crazy. Not to mention key role players on the bench. And we had guys hurt earlier in the season. Garland and Okoro were both hurt early on in the season. It's frustrating that some of these injuries we're not getting. I think Mobley's probably the most up-to-date one. And I say that obviously we got it a couple minutes ago, but I say up-to-date in terms of like, we actually know what's happening. Like with a sprained elbow, like, all right, it's just sprained. Like there's nothing that needs to go. He doesn't need to get surgery or anything. Guess what? Colin Sexton tore his meniscus. I don't know what the hell's happening with him. I don't know what his timetable is. They haven't even said like a timetable. Woj didn't even tell me a freaking timetable. Kevin Love and Marketing are out for whatever reason, for COVID, I guess. Hopefully they're coming back in the next 3 games that we're going to have to play against top tier teams. And then now Jared Allen also out for health precaution. We're out 4 of our best players, and I'm losing my mind because it's going to be a struggle to watch the next 3 games and hope that we can even do remotely close to what we did in the past 4 games. It's really tough to be happy about the last 4 games going 2-2. So I'm frustrated. Obviously, that's coming over from my Browns frustration as well. I've had 2 great days of just being able to vent about my problems about Cleveland sports right now. Jeff wants to talk about the Guardians. Where are the Guardians? I don't want to talk about the Guardians because I don't know what's going on with them. So that's how I'm feeling. So I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Logan, voice of reason, please help us. Voice of reason.
Voice of reason. Okay. This is the way I'm going to look at it, guys. I've always been a fairly optimistic sports fan, but I've also always been a very realistic sports fan. And for me, I believe this has a very eerily similar feeling to it that last season's Cavs season had. And I'm going to tell you this right now, this Cavs team is a completely different team than last year. I think it's a lot better. I think it's a lot more talented. These guys are a lot more, willing to go out and win a game when they're down 4 or 5 guys. But last year, I think you guys remember, Cavaliers started well. They had those back-to-back games in Brooklyn and won them both. Yeah. This year, they started well, had back-to-back games in Cleveland against Boston, and were once again competitive. And then all of a sudden, this injury bug kind of slides in and really derails all the momentum and all the things that were going well for the Cavs. And for the rest of the season, you had, I don't know, however many different starting lineups. And that's what makes me nervous as a realistic sports fan. How are you going to find consistency? How are you going to get this group of now kind of misfits in a way to make it work on a court? J.D. Bickerstaff has already had his hands full this season with this Cavaliers team with injuries, with trying to figure out what rotations work, what rotations don't. And now he's going to have, his hands even more full. A 9-6 Cavs team. I was very proud of the way they battled 2-2 in 4-game stretch that, aside from the Pistons game, you're playing some good basketball teams. Washington is currently first in the Eastern Conference. We'll talk about those games later, I'm sure. But it's just, as a realistic sports fan, I see where this can go, and I don't like where it's going. My optimism says that this team can stay in any game and hopefully can limit the damage until we can get back to full strength.
So here's the thing, at least here's a couple things, because it's almost unbelievable that we're at the point in which I'm not saying that even, let's just say hypothetically, everyone was healthy and we just played a full season. Hypothetically, we're not good enough for load management yet, of course, considering we haven't been relevant in a couple of years. Only superstars take load management for the most part. But when you have Jared Allen, you bring in Lauri Markkanen, and you draft Evan Mobley, you have 3 7-footers. You're expecting, okay, if one of them's not 100%, we're going to have rebounding depth. We're going to have being able to, mock up and muddy the paint for the other team and, really have a height advantage. Even if one or maybe 2 guys are out, we're 15 games in, it's already gone. That's almost unbelievable. We do not have one. Who's going to be our starting center? Dean Wade, Taco Fall.
Taco Falls, baby.
Taco Fall played meaningful minutes. It seems like when guys come off the bench, though, and you're not expecting them to play meaningful minutes, we've seen it, which we're going to get into. Denzel Valentine has been playing okay basketball for an end of the roster spot. Taco Fall, he's big body, but I don't want to overshadow the team aspect, because I do, there's no I in team. I do believe that. I don't think that the Cavaliers operate through one person. This is not Darius Garland's team. This is not Colin Sexton's team. This is not Jared Allen's team. It's everyone's team. That's why it's so fun. That's why it's so good. But the Mobley news is so disappointing to me, because this is only hurting his rookie of the year campaign, his defensive, for this kid is on track for awards. Jarrett Allen is on track for awards. Colin Sexton was on track for all-star, appearances. And of course, everybody's hurt now. So you're going to miss time. It's okay. I'm hoping, Logan, I do agree with you that there is going to be some issue here moving forward. I think that writing is on the wall, but have I missed anything with the intro? I don't want to jump right to the games, because we're missing. I feel like there's a lot going on. Jared Allen was a random. Justin and I were at the game Saturday night, which will be fun. We'll get into 91-89 win over Boston. He didn't play in the fourth quarter, and I don't think that the illness was bothering him then. And we're going to talk about how JB seems to stick with his guns, seems to stick with his rotations that he feels are successful. But before we get into specifics, I just want to make one more round.
I think you covered everything.
Okay.
I don't want to explode again. I can't do it again.
I'm trying to keep myself in check, but I mean, what it comes down to right now is it's going to take a consistent effort when it comes to both defensive pressure and passing. But what I'm nervous about, because even last night in Boston, you held them to under 100 points. You only scored 92 yourself. I just don't know if there's enough firepower with all these guys down to get that to 110, 120 mark that you need to win games in today's NBA. I know you said be the voice of reason. Just right now, until I can see it with my eyes, what does this team look like down all these guys? You can't really make an opinion quite just yet.
I'll tell you what I'm thinking, because this is going to be a complete, and I'll be the opposite of voice of reason. I'm completely switching the role that I usually have. But, this team, you knew the bread and butter was going to be Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in the middle. Obviously, Lauri Markkanen, he's a 3-point shooter, but he's also 7 foot tall. We had our bigs. Now we're just going to play the small ball kind of game that the Warriors play, and we're just going to let dudes shoot threes. Because to be honest, we're not, like just said, who's going to be our starting center? If we get Kevin Love back, Lauri Markkanen, a lot of these guys, I just don't know I can trust them to do. And again, those two are 3-point specialists again. So I feel like this team's just going to transition into a team that lets it fly. Whether or not that's going to be a good thing, I have no idea. We've seen guys get super hot like Cedi Osman and Ricky Rubio. But at the end of the day, we've lost our bread and butter approach. And even with Sexton, being able to just score points in bunches, we're really in a pinch here. So for me, I think this team's just going to let it fly until guys start coming back and getting healthy.
And the good thing is that it's still going to be interesting to watch these games, even if they're blowouts and even if they're close, if they're close games upcoming, which we'll get into next week. So make sure that you bring it back in and make sure you click on our videos and like and share with all your friends. But let's start with the Washington Wizards game, a 97-94 defeat at home. Disappointing standouts for me. I'm going to keep it quick, and then we're just going to go rapid fire thoughts, because we do have 4 games to get through with some in-depth talking points. But what was disappointing about this game is that we were winning the whole game, and then we crumbled in the fourth. It looked like a Cavs crumble. Again, we're not full strength, so take that into consideration as we're talking about these 4 contests. But I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but also with the Wizards game, Ricky Rubio is your high scorer in the Wizards game. Last night in the 6-point loss, Ricky Rubio is your high scorer. I don't love that. We've seen players go to teams and have one-off years where it's their best year of their career, but is Ricky Rubio, hitting these step back threes, is that sustainable? I'm looking at it and I just don't expect the ball to go in the hoop, and then it goes in the hoop. So same way with guys like Denzel Valentine. But Justin, thoughts on this Wizards game? I think that we got dominated by Montrezl Harrell. That's probably my last point for that game.
That was going to be one of my points, but it was more about the aspect that, again, you still have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley for this game, and we still got out-rebounded. And This is just a trend that has been so upsetting to watch with that, kind of, those 2 towers in the middle. Like, they're supposed to be able to just out-rebound every guy around them. People just aren't boxing out. And I know that's a novel concept in the NBA, is to, stick to the basics and actually do the thing that secures you the rebound. Obviously, you have a couple of balls that bounce all the way back out to the 3-point line, but getting out rebounded, I feel like, is a consistent thing that I feel happens in these games that we lose. And then just a minor error not minor, it was a significant error, but a minor learning point for Evan Mobley in terms of the final 3 that gave the Wizards the lead, just collapsing on the defense. I believe there was a foul that they were trying to get there, and it just didn't go off. So, it was a tough game. But again, 97 points, allowing teams under 100. I feel like we're really sticking to the defensive schemes here and doing really good jobs.
Yeah, currently the Cavaliers rank 2nd actually in opponents' points per game in the NBA, which is a really good sign to see, something they're going to keep up. But that Washington game, that was so weird, because the next morning I woke up and was like, oh yeah, we lost. Because that whole game, it seemed like the Cavaliers had the Wizards on their hip. It seemed like Wizards would make a couple of these runs, would kind of push it to like 5 to 7 and kind of get back in it. And it wasn't until they got the offensive rebound, kicked to the left corner to Bradley Beal to hit a 3, that I suddenly got nervous. Wizards shot 17 of 17 at the free throw line. The Cavaliers lost Kuzma on back-to-back possessions in the last 30 seconds, outscored by the Wizards 29-20 in the 4th quarter. The good things, you held Bradley Beal in check 4 of 19. How many times has Bradley Beal just gone for 35 plus against the Cavaliers? Garland once again showed his closing ability, hit that really nice floater that I thought was going to all but do the game if we could start making free throws, and things happen. But that game was just strange because it felt like a game that we truly did give away. It was the first time this season that the Cavaliers bent and the Cavaliers broke. And, we haven't done that. We've had a couple of games where we've certainly taken on, a monsoon of runs or some late rally by a team, but find a way to close out. And I think that's why it felt so strange, why it felt so odd and unfamiliar to us, is that was the first time the Cavaliers did break. They lost, though, to the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. I don't think that's sustainable. I think that the Wizards eventually will maybe come back down to earth. But I mean, then you look at the Cavaliers, right? There's no all-stars on that team. Wizards do have an all-star. They're kind of just a well-rounded team, a team that plays well together. And nowadays in the NBA, it's more competitive than ever that you're going to have these teams that don't have all-stars and can still find, wins and, and compete in games like the Wizards and the Cavaliers did in their own ways in this game.
Take away watching the game, take away looking at the score. If I come to either one of you guys, I'm sure I would agree. And I just read off these stats from the box score, because I don't like box score reading, but this is what's been impressive to me so far in the early season. The Wizards out rebounded us. They had 6 more offensive rebounds. They had 4 more assists. They had 2 more steals. They had 2 less turnovers, and they had 2 more points in the paint. I would never have guessed that we only lost that game by 3. With all of those statistical categories lost, I would have said we might have lost by 15, potentially run out of the gym. But we really were in control the whole night, and it just slipped away from us on the end. Really, it was a 2-possession game. Of course, there's more to it than meets the eye. But moving forward, a bounce back game, and a game where the defense. Once again, I think that without Colin Sexton on the court, which is a big part of the offense, he was our leading scorer before being injured. The defense has been what is most impressive to me watching the games. Now, we've played some teams that don't shoot the ball very well. The Detroit Pistons do not shoot the ball very well. And the two more games that we're going to get into with the Boston Celtics back to back do not shoot the ball very well. But still, a 98-78 Cavalier victory against the Detroit Pistons, a team that we should beat, and a step in the right direction, not only for the franchise, but for JB Bickerstaff, where last year we would lose the teams that, this is a team you should beat, and this is a team that we did beat. Not just, it wasn't difficult at all. It was a very, handily win that we just really took it to them, and they didn't even score 80 points. Justin, I'm going to throw it to you once again.
I'm going to keep this one to more player-based comments, and it's really just two players for this one. 2 games of having Isaac Okoro back, I think he's shown his true value in the defensive side of the ball, which I think was something that, in terms of our guards, I've always kind of questioned our 1 through 3 guys. Obviously, having Mobley and Jarrett Allen occupy the paint has been a great thing for our defense. But, watching Okoro be on Beal the entire game, watching Okoro be on Cade Cunningham for the majority of these games, he's done a really good job of showing his worth on the defensive side. But man, oh man, does that kid not have any offensive value at all outside of potentially driving to the paint. That being said, I think that his defense is all I care about. If he scores you like 6 to 8 points, but he's still locking down a top tier all-star player, I'm happy with that. There's other guys on this team that score bunches of points that, I'm not too worried about. I'm going to kick it over to my man, Darius Garland. This is easily his best game of the year. Obviously, Detroit's not a good team, but the stat line he has of shooting 57% from field goal, 44% from three-point range. He's the leading scorer and has 7 assists. Just a game that I feel like needs to be more consistent from him, and it's going to definitely need to be more consistent in these, coming weeks with all these players out. He's going to have to continue to do a good job of finding open guys, making space, making guys collapse in on him. But he's also going to need to do a better job of shooting the three-point ball a little bit more and a little bit more efficiently. So a game that I hope he will be able to recreate more often this season.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that Pistons game, and Jeff, you said it perfectly. The first step to becoming a good team is beating the teams that you're supposed to, and that's exactly what the Cavaliers did. What I want to kind of jump to, are the Cavaliers the new Lob City? I thought this is something that I thought about in this Detroit game. Allen, number 1 in dunks, Mobley, number 3 in dunks. Let's talk from a perspective of the Cavaliers being at full strength. Let's just do that and make our lives easier and not let us think about the doom that awaits us. Held to Detroit to just 78 points on 36% shooting. Forced 23 turnovers to 27 points. We turned it over 19 times, but only gave up 11 points. And that's a good sign. That means we're getting back on defense. We're making up for our mistakes. But the dynamic of Garland and his 2 bigs is so fun to watch. And that's why I'm talking about new Lob City. You have a crafty point guard. Darius Garland is your Chris Paul. I don't want anyone to take that out of context in the comments. That's not what I'm saying. You have Griffin as your Mobley, DeAndre Jordan is your Jarrett Allen. Just 2 guys that can fly out the gym, are very lanky, can pretty much get to any ball that Garland's going to throw up there, especially Garland in that Detroit game. We saw that. Nice little crossover, draw 2 defenders to him down the middle of the paint, lob over his head to the right side of Mobley for a 2-hand jam. I mean, that is Lob City, and that's what we saw all the time when it came to those old Clippers teams of the past. I think that is, in a way, the identity of the Cavaliers. Break down that defense, work your way inside, and then once they commit, you find your guys down low. If not, you're kicking it out for a triple. But that Cavaliers game, it's just one of those 48-minute wins that I've talked about before, and in episode 1, we had a 48-minute win. Episode 2, we had a 48-minute win. And now here in episode, what are we on, episode 4 now, guys? Honestly, I'm not sure. I think it's episode 4. Yep. We've had a 48-minute win. And that's a good sign because I could tell you we probably had 2, 3 48-minute wins all last season.
I just want to point out again, lost the rebounding category in this game. A dominant win still. We still lose the rebounding category. It's something that – just going to harp on it. It's something that we need to, when we are healthy at least, get back into. And I think Kevin Love is a big part of that. Obviously, he does a very good job of boxing people out and being around the rim. So hopefully we can improve that when everyone's back.
I honestly think just just from a fan point of view, I think that having Mobley and Allen out there, I think they box out and then our guards are just expecting them to get a rebound and the ball. I see the ball bounce a lot of time and then it bounces right into the offense's hands. After it's so annoying too, right after probably the most annoying thing in basketball is when you play a good defensive possession and then they get the ball back and can a three or something. But Justin, great point for the Pistons game. For Isaac Okoro's stat line, if he could give you 9 points and 9 rebounds in 23 minutes, plus his defense, that's really all that you're asking for. We're going to beat a lot of teams by 20 if he could do that. Logan, Lob City, first team in the NBA to 100 dunks. More importantly to me in that Pistons game, outside of course, the dunks play into it, 50 points in the paint out of 98. So over half of our points that game were, coming in our bread and butter area. So that was that's probably our, one of our full quarters, 4-quarter, victories of the year, which was great to see against some lackluster talent. But moving into a game on Saturday, November 13th, that Justin and I were lucky and we were grateful to be at.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Talk about, I don't even know what to say. Well, let's actually start with Logan. Did you watch this game?
I only missed the first quarter and I texted you guys.
Good.
So you actually we scored 9 points in the first quarter.
If you didn't watch the first 3 quarters, you were actually good. But we want to hear from watching it on TV. What do you got?
Absolutely. I mean, we were down 72-53 with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. We were on pace to maybe get lucky and score 80 points in that game. We outscore them, let me see if my math is correct, 38-17 the rest of the way, 38-17 the rest of the way. Jetty and Rubio were fantastic. And also watching it on TV, I texted my dad about this too. Watching the fans actually get excited about a Cavaliers game is so refreshing to see. I mean, watching, the whole crowd rise up as a triple goes up and, goes down. It's just such a fun, kind of indescribable feeling that you watch on the television. But Jetty and Rubio brought us back. Mobley put us in position, scoring 12 of his 19 in that fourth quarter. Really, that turnaround that he has on that baseline, he clearly has it crafted. Him just taking Tatum one-on-one, backing him in, turning around and shooting. I mean, showing his ability to put it on the floor and take a pull up from 16 feet, put us in position to win. And then Garland, 2 big free throws. He's done that a couple times this season where we've had to put him at the line in situations to close out a game. And he's done just that. But you're talking about a 19-point comeback, 21-2 run, 2 offensive boards in that final minute. We had 3 chances on one possession that led to that no-look Rubio lob to Allen at the rim for the 2-hand dunk, and pretty much the rock just kind of came unglued. That was a very satisfying win. I've probably watched the highlights of that game 6 or 7 times since it, showed. I've been pulling it up on YouTube a few times. But it's just one of those games that it doesn't feel as satisfying now knowing what position we're actually in. But when you talk about just that game from its perspective of that day, I mean, that was just a lot of fun.
I'm going to be honest with you, outside, because I have not been to a Cavs game in a while. So it's tough to really think back because for sure there was some unbelievable atmospheres when LeBron was here, especially the first time and the second time. But that place was nuts down there. I was making Justin so mad because people in front of us were standing and I was like this trying to see the ball because the people behind me weren't standing up and I didn't want to get in their way. And then we were just the last 2 minutes, the whole place was standing. I think that we were chanting defense. I had sweaty palms the whole second half. I was just sitting there,
Absolutely.
With chills. It was unbelievable. And that's one of those games where I don't even know what to say because that's a game we should have never won. We scored 9 points in the first quarter and we then, in the fourth quarter, 29-15, we outscore them. So we play good in crunch time, it seems, for the most part. Evan Mobley showed that he was real in that game because all of his shots came down, in clutch moments when there was opportunities for other people to make shots and they weren't making them. We went to the rookie, we kept going back to him in crunch time when we needed a bucket down on the offensive side of the ball. So Justin, how did you feel about that game? Unbelievable.
I'm trying to scroll through my photos to find when me and you went with our 2 buddies, John Perilla and Ricky, to the last game. I feel like that was the last time that I was at a basketball game, but boy, oh boy, could I tell you that I couldn't remember any of these games I'll remember this game. I will straight up remember this game forever. Listen, I go to football games with my dad all the time, and it's great. It's an awesome experience. Going with a friend, going with Jeff. Listen, he's talking about standing up and, you know, being in my way. He wasn't in my way. I was worried.
I was angering him though. I was like,
I was also in the same position where people behind you, it's always this like battle of like, this is so, like, it's getting so good. Stand up. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. And people don't do it. Like, I don't understand the people that don't want to stand up and like do that. So I'm sitting down and Jeff's like trying to peek over some other dude. And I'm like, Jeff, oh my God, I just stand, man. Like, I'm like, I can't see what's going on. That game was awesome. It was phenomenal. Man, I can't even describe. I'm just going to describe the atmosphere because for the majority, I've been doing this a lot this year with the Browns, where I have my hands in my face a lot of the times. And for the first 3 quarters, I feel like that was the case. We scored 9 points.
All too familiar.
I'm like,
dude, there was the third quarter, or we came right out of half, and we both went like this, and we looked up, and like we had the ball, and we were like, "What just happened?"
I'm sure
We were consistently down 14 points for the majority of the third quarter, and the beginning of the fourth quarter, I'm like, Jeff, we can never come to a basketball game again because we're just bad luck. Like the Cavs, this is the worst Cavs game I've watched
so well
all season, and they have the best comeback in what I can remember for Cavs. Obviously the 3-1, but it's been so long since the roof just exploded in that stadium. Obviously a different stadium, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse now, a little bit different, but man, they rocked those new uniforms. Those are sick.
Broke them in perfectly.
Oh, perfect. It was amazing. Come on, that the floorboards, it's a 3-1 comeback. I mean, that it just couldn't write it any better. So it was a phenomenal game.
At one point, the score is 89-89, a score that we were very familiar with from that Game 7 of 2016. I don't know if you guys caught on to that, but I kind of did.
About that.
And I was like,
I was too busy hitting Jeff on the back. So,
dude, but just talk about basketball again. I mean, Jetty showed us that he can put it on the floor. In years past, I always had panic attacks when that guy would even dribble more than 3 times because I thought he was out of control. But suddenly he's able to, run and pick off these long pass attempts from the Celtics, run it down, finish the left hand in traffic. We thought he was just a spot-up shooter. We thought that was only going to be his role. I still prefer that to be his role. But he showed ability to actually put it on the floor and make things happen. That's just another note I had because I don't think we've given Jetty nearly enough love for how well he's played this season.
Chetty and Rubio have just been pleasant surprises for how much they contribute to this team in terms of what we thought probably coming into this season. And my final point is just Garland again with another like classic game that you're going to need from, in winning efforts, a 22 and 6 assists in 36 minutes. I mean, we're just going to need more, effort coming out of a lot of these guys and, a little bit more refinement in terms of the basics of rebounding and taking good shots. Obviously, there have been times where we've taken kind of poor shots and poor moments. So, but that's about it for me on this one.
Yeah, Garland was off to. I think we were talking about he had 18 or 20 in the first half, and then
I wanted to ignore that.
He kind of shuts down, but no, I'm going to bring it up because it's important with all these injuries that we do not have. Believe it or not, because I think all 3 of us would like to see him, go for 40 or 45 one night, but I'd rather have him maintain a 50-50 shoot pass mentality, compared to just shooting, 20, 25 shots a game, and he might score 30 or 35 and we lose. Not saying that it's going to be easy moving forward.
That'd be very similar to another player that we've talked about.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention him because he's injured, but
I know.
It's okay.
If they don't know, then I don't know what they've been watching for the past 3 years.
Speaking of not watching for the past, well, not that I haven't watched, but there's a Celtics fan in front of us at the game.
Oh yeah.
We're asking them. This is a little side tangent, but we'll make it a longer episode. We're like, where is Brad Stevens? Me and Justin so ignorant. He's like, oh, he's the GM now. Okay.
He's the GM.
And then we were like, where's Jaylen Brown? Because Jaylen Brown didn't play, hamstring. So we knew that he was hurt. We saw him on the end of the bench. Yesterday, they come out. I totally forgot they had Al Horford, and that was the biggest change from the first game to the second game. Was of course that Jarrett Allen didn't play, but then Al Horford played for them. And before we get into this game, total side note here: the halftime show for the first Celtics game was this dude and his dog, his little
On the ball?
on the
Oh,
ball.
God, I
It
love
was
that.
unbelievable.
I love that.
Because the
I've seen
first
that
two
one.
quarters, Justin and I were like this, and then this dude comes out and he's like bouncing and stuff, and the dog was in a jukebox.
Yeah.
And me and Justin were like so mad. And we're like, all right, this guy's gonna do some lame stuff. And then the dog comes out, and we were losing it because the game was so boring. And then the second half was like that. Holy.
Oh my God.
So last night,
This fourth game.
Yeah, last
I'm
night.
trying to because I did watch it, but I'm trying to think of it was weird to me because Schroeder killed us the first game.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And now Horford killed us defensively, offensively, and on the boards last night. But it's not like, I don't know. I felt like the bright spot of both games on the defensive side is that we limited Jason Tatum for the most part. I mean, he had 23 the other night, but the first game we definitely did a lot better job on him. They were more balanced scoring. Smart had 14, Schroeder had 14, and they have some guys that seem to be stepping up too. Grant Williams with 11 and Josh Richardson with 9. So, Logan, what was the biggest difference, outside of the Jared Allen not playing in between these two games for you?
I mean, first of all, that first game, we didn't even talk about it. Schroeder cannot be doing that to us. I mean, I swear every time we play Dennis Schroeder, I'm like, he's going to get to the rim and there's just nothing you can do about it, apparently. My dog's messing with the curtains over here, so here's the lighting. I guess the biggest difference, I mean, Allen being gone, like you said, that's the big one. If you're asking for something outside of Jarrett Allen, I think it's one of those things like I don't know if you guys watch wrestling, but in wrestling, they have a thing called 50-50 booking, where basically one guy wins the 1 week and they do a rematch, the guy wins the next. I think it's just one of those things. It's not fixed like wrestling, but it's one of those things where it's hard to beat the same team 2 times in a row. And I think that's kind of just what it comes down to. Each team makes their adjustments. And the Cavaliers got an over 11 performance from Evan Mobley. I'm not going to read too much into that. I think he's a rookie. He's going to have some rookie blunders. He's going to have a couple of duds. That's just going to happen. I don't know what my dog just did back there. I'm not going to turn around because I'm really nervous to see what he just knocked over. But it's just it's one of those games that we didn't even play good. We didn't play well. I think I was texting you guys when we were like in a 6-point game with like 3 minutes left, and I was like, well, you know what? They battled. Then I was like, wait a minute, it's only a 1-point game now. Now I'm kind of interested. Once again, Garland was showing his closing ability that we've been harping on throughout this podcast. You didn't play well. You played a good team. You're going to live with a 1-1 split with Boston at the end of the day.
Yeah. Jeff?
For me, because that game, I agree with you, Logan. I think we had some bad performances. I think Jared Allen was missing, and I think Al Horford coming back for them after the sore back on Saturday night was a big difference maker for them. He really seemed to make their team go.
He was great.
But one of my final, I think probably my final, main point for the games here is that obviously looking way ahead and, nothing. I'm just in speculation. Boston Celtics, Cleveland Cavaliers, 7 games set in the playoffs with these two rosters would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun.
It would be,
Yeah.
I think it'd be a pretty good matchup. I think we're similar, we had got 2 young, head coaches. Their head coach is a rookie. Ours is basically a rookie as well. His first full year with fans and everything, I do believe. So
Right.
It's one of those things where it's a good matchup. They're 2, even teams. And that's really how I saw that second game shaking out.
Yeah, again, I'm just going to harp on the point. Lost the rebound category. It's going to continue to be a thing. Mobley going out. The reason why I don't want to harp on Mobley's, stat line for this game is because we watched it in the first Celtics game too, where he kind of doesn't, I think I was telling Jeff, him and Allen maybe had 8 points combined going into half. And then Mobley comes out, and like we talked about, he just starts drilling shots, turnaround jumpers from the block, from 16 feet out. I mean, he really can turn it on, and that's a super bright spot for him, and something that, hey, who knows if he's in there towards the end of the game. We only lost. I mean, technically, the score's a little blown up, and that typically happens at the end. It was a lot closer, but maybe this is a different game. Maybe we come out and we get the win, but it's just a matter of we're down a lot of our players, and we still managed to, they're down Jaylen Brown. Granted, Jaylen Brown's a great player, but, I think we're far more depleted than they were, and we still came out of a 92-98 loss. Obviously, a loss is a loss, but I'm optimistic about how this team can, perform towards the end of games.
Yeah, Justin, I mean, that's also what's concerning, especially in this next stretch down so many guys. Games like Washington, games like last night against Boston, a win here, a loss there, that's going to hurt when you're down so many guys and to see how much catch up you're going to be playing. I have no idea when we're going to be at full strength. We already know Sexton's not going to be back for 3 to 4 months. I'm talking about when we get Mobley back 2 to 4 weeks from now, what are we going to be looking at? Is that going to be a 12 and 17 to 20 team, or are they going to surprise us and still be hovering right around 500? But those kinds of losses to the Wizards and last night against the Celtics, you'll be thinking about those when you're in a position where you could have had a couple of more.
Very good observation. Yeah, you got to win the close ones, especially when, you have your chances. But my final piece here from the past couple games, because I feel like it's really happened due to the injuries, JB Bickerstaff is sticking with the team, the lineup that has played well and that has gotten them back into games, especially in deficits. Saw it in the first Boston game. Ricky Rubio comes in with like 8 minutes in the third quarter. He never took him out. Denzel Valentine playing, getting some stretch run down.
A couple of big shots for him. Big shots.
Yeah, he's been a pleasant surprise off the bench as well. So JB Bickerstaff sticks with his guns. He's not gonna, cater to someone just because they might be the starter, that they, the pace of play and the play style of play, the Cavaliers are dictating, I feel like, for the most part, which is good to see. It's something we haven't seen in a while. And I'll wrap it up with that. But do we have any final thoughts?
No, next time we're meeting 3 games again, the Nets, the Warriors, and the Nets again. Unfortunately, we have the Nets tomorrow, then the Warriors Thursday, and then we get a little bit of a break, and then the Nets again on Monday. So the next time we be here, could be 500, 9-9. So we'll see. Hopefully, maybe we sneak one out against one of these teams.
I'll say I'm hoping that Mobley's injury is more like 2 weeks than 4 weeks. I think that can make a major difference if he can recover faster, but also come back full strength. I don't want you rushing back. Absolutely. We're going to see what this Cavaliers team is really made of in the next couple of weeks. And I think we already have kind of seen what they're made of. They've been battling injury. The fact that they were 9-5, 4th in the East, now they're 9-6. When they were 9-5, 4th in the East, and I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, like, we're also missing 2 starters and 2 of our bench pieces. I mean, like, that says a lot about this character of this team. How much more do they have, though? I mean, that's what we're going to find out. We're going to discuss. We'll talk about it. I think we have to not look at, the win-loss record the next couple of games, more just like, okay, we were doing this well in this game. We weren't doing this well. When we bring everybody together, get on the same page as quick as you can, because this season's going to fly by, before you know it. So it's going to be about seeing what you do well, taking those strengths, putting it together with all of your pieces, and then figuring out what your season looks like after 82 games.
Absolutely.
A week from now, we're going to have more basketball to talk about, 3 more games. We do appreciate you guys sticking around for the long haul. If you've made it this far, as Logan said, this is the 4th episode of Cavs Encapsulated, and we will catch you guys a week from today, next Tuesday, after 3 difficult games for our Cleveland Cavaliers. But with that being said, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.